Welcome, everybody. Wow, I am so excited to be here today. This is my favorite type of show that I'm able to do. This is Behind the Bricks. And as you guys could notice, Anthony is not here today. Anthony is out on a due diligence assignment. So it's just me and you guys. And we're really going to have a lot of fun. Remember, this podcast is brought to you by Future Gen REI. If you guys like this content, please subscribe, like, and share. All right, so on this episode, I'm really going to dive deep into how I started my investment journey, the things that I did right in the first decade, the things that I did wrong in my first decade, and exactly what I think you guys should all be doing. It's gonna kind of be like we're just sitting back and forth. I'm gonna start with this, and I don't want it to sound brag-offish, but I'm just gonna give you a little bit of where I am today, almost 20 years in my buy and hold real estate investment journey. So today, the Karp family portfolio, which is a Long Island-based portfolio, we own 20 rental properties, majority of them being multifamily with a few single family. We also own a commercial building, which has 2 tenants. And now we are the general partner in an apartment syndication that you guys are all very familiar, which Anthony and myself are the GPs on them, general partners, where we have over 100 units in Tennessee. So I've seen it all, I've done it all, and I'm gonna tell you how it all kind of got started. So the way I started was I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure every single one of you guys did, and it changed my life. And it made me notice 2 things. It made me feel like I needed to figure out a way out of the rat race. I also needed to somehow get into buy and hold real estate. So as soon as I finished that book, I ran out and I bought a 2-family property where Jessica and myself were living upstairs and we rented out the entire downstairs. And if my memory serves me right, we were renting it out for $2,000 a month. My monthly mortgage payment was $1,900. And right there, I had the aha moment and I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do in my life. I'm going to buy rental houses. So that's how it all started 20 years ago. And then from there, very nervous, very scared, I jumped into our second property. And here's a big mistake for you guys that I made. We jumped into our second property, and our second property was a single family house. And we ended up not taking any leverage on that house, and we bought it cash. And that property probably made us, $1,000 a month. And then from there, we ran around for the next, I'm gonna say 5 years, and we were buying a lot of single family properties. Our strategy in the beginning was we were buying properties that had low taxes, and we were buying houses that were 600, 700, 800 square feet. We were gut renovating them, another mistake right there. And what we were doing is we were reconforming them to 2 and 3 bedroom houses, renting them out to non-for-profits or, young families in the neighborhood. And that was what we did. So the 2 mistakes there was, number 1, we didn't take leverage. If I can go back in time, the Karp family portfolio today, we have financing on 3 of our apartment buildings, and that's financing we only took in the last 2 or 3 years. So mistake number 1 was we didn't put financing, and I should have put financing when interest rates were 3-4%. So that's a huge mistake that we made. I was so risk averse. I was so scared. What if the tenant doesn't pay the rent? What if we can't pay the mortgage? What if there's, in New York, landlord tenant laws are terrible. So what if we can't evict the person? So I made that mistake. That was a big mistake because I should be more leveraged. And I'm not saying you should get over leveraged, but to have a portfolio of our size today and not to have 50% leverage on it is crazy. And I could have had great interest rates, 4%, 3%. And now when I'm going through my portfolio today, and this is something every real estate buy and hold real estate investor should do, I'm going through my portfolio and I'm seeing what the cash on cash return is. And when I'm seeing what the cash on cash return is, what I'm doing is I'm not looking at what I paid for it. I'm looking at what it's worth today and what I could sell it for. And I went through all 20 properties that the Karp family own, and our best performing properties that are giving a 28% cash on cash return, a 22% cash on cash return, are the properties that I put leverage on. Not the properties that I bought back in 2009, 10, 11. So what I want you guys to take away, and what's the mic drop in that big first portion, is I should have put leverage on them. I should have put good 30-year financing on those properties. So that's number one. Number two, and this is not a mistake that I made, but I could have did a better job of it. I should have bought more, right? I'm sitting here looking at two families that I was buying for $180,000 in Ronkonkoma. Cottages in Lake Grove I was buying at $90,000, $120,000, $150,000. So big mistake is that I know I didn't have the money for it because I was writing checks for it, but I should have put leverage on them. So that was number one. And I don't know if these are mistakes, but these are just things that I would have done differently going back. And I'm making the changes now. That's what's so cool, because I'm 20 years and I, at 42 years old, feel that I have another 20 years ahead of me. So, and I'm going to get to the syndication. I'm going to get to massive multifamily, but I'm going to tell you the stuff that I'm doing differently now. Let's talk about, and I'm jumping around a lot, but let's talk about property management. So with our syndication in Tennessee, we have two complexes that are about 50 units each, a 51 and a 44 that we're actually trying to bring to a 56. Those properties, we have other people managing them, which is the best way to do it. Now, I do impress upon every single one of you, you should manage in the beginning. And the reason you should manage in the beginning is that's how you learn. That's how you learn. It's, like they always say, if you own a restaurant or you're starting a restaurant, you should start cleaning the bathrooms. You should start sweeping the floors. You want to be the fry chef. You also want to be the pastry chef. You want to be the waiter and the waitress, right? So I believe in the beginning, every one of you guys should start managing, but the best thing about the syndication is it got me not to be afraid to hand it over to somebody else. So our Tennessee portfolio is handed over to somebody else. Somebody else manages it. It's the greatest thing in the entire world. And my job is to keep them accountable. So it's weekly check-ins. It's going over why are we down in collections? What are the repairs? But everything comes to them. Instead of, example, Saturday morning at 8 a.m., one of my three families in Smithtown, the fire alarm went off and the tenants are running out of the house calling the fire marshal. Well, guess who's getting that phone call? My wife, Jessica. And even though she's the PM, we live together, so of course it's affecting my day. Where, another example, I'm not going to get into this here because I'm going to do a whole podcast about it. We had a fire, an arson fire, in one of our buildings in Tennessee. I didn't find out about it until the next day at 9 o'clock, when it was a very comfortable conversation with my PM that he doesn't have great news for us. So look at those polar opposites. So in the beginning, I recommend every single one of you guys start off managing on your own, but really the goal would be handing it over to a property manager. And because of our Tennessee syndication, I've actually started, and our recently newest acquisition in New York, which is a 4-family that we bought, I gave it to another manager to manage, which is the greatest thing. Now, we just dove into it slightly, but I'm also going to really impress upon you. I'm really telling most of you guys, you should be also considering just to invest your capital in a syndication. And I know it sounds self-serving because this podcast is all about multifamily in Tennessee and New York, because that's what I own today. And of course, Future Gen REI is a syndication where you guys could invest your capital right next to ours. And that's what's so cool about it. Why I think a syndication is so amazing is how great it is for us to meet with our property managers once a week, make sure they're doing the right thing. As a limited partner in a multifamily syndication, you hear from us once a month. So you're not taking any of those phone calls. You're not even getting the text message that arson happened at one of your properties. And I believe for the average person, it's great because you're running your W-2 job. You're a high income business owner. You guys are running something else. With this model, you're able to park your capital right next to us. But on the sides of the tax world, you're a real estate investor. And I'm going to go through all the cool little different things. So that's just my beginning rant about everything. I had a bunch of questions that every single one of you guys put out to us. So I'll kind of dive into that. The reason I started buying multifamily property was for one reason: passive income. That's all I cared about was passive income. I was obsessed with building generational wealth, but that's a byproduct of passive income. I just did not want to have to worry about having money come in every single month. And I was tired of trading my time for money. I was tired of showing up and working 8 hours, 16 hours, 40 hours, and getting a check, where I wanted my money working for me. And that's what I built today. You guys got to picture this. On the 1st and the 15th, we have over 50 rent checks that hit our accounts. It's the greatest thing ever. And with our syndication, right now, our models are we're buying distress. I don't want to say distress. We're buying value add properties. So we're buying properties that usually take us about 18 months to 24 months to stabilize. And during that process, we're renovating, we're fixing up, we're creating value, right? We're raising rents, we're putting in good tenants. And then with our syndication, typically after 18 to 24 months, we start generating passive income, which quarterly goes to our limited partners, which are you guys. We're also starting to branch out where we're going to be purchasing assets that are sheer cash flow opportunities. And what those opportunities are we're going to buy properties that are kind of already stabilized. We're potentially going to be giving a 5, a 6% quarterly dividend or quarterly cash flow. And then at the end of our term, when we decide to sell it, we'll hopefully be able to give you guys double-digit returns. So we're also trying to give multiple different options where you could have our other options, which potentially return 16, 17%, or even 20% on some of our higher risk options rate of return. But we're also looking to buy more stabilized complexes for all of you guys to invest with who are looking for cash flow like I have in my personal portfolio. So we're looking at the cash flow side, and I keep going back and forth from what I built over 20 years and what we're building for you guys, just because it's the way my brain works. Because what we're building in Tennessee, we're mirroring everything I did in the first 20 years buying here in New York. But we're doing it with 20 years worth of experience. And so the nice thing about our Tennessee portfolio, back to where we first started, we're putting leverage. We're putting really, really good leverage, right? So the goal for all of our complexes is to have at least 70% leverage. And we're getting financing from Fannie and Freddie Mac, which is considered agency debt. And we're getting the debts with amazing interest rates. Our first complex, which is in Dyersburg, which a lot of you guys who are watching this are invested in, we're at 5.5%, amortized over 30 years, principal and interest with a 10-year balloon. It doesn't get any better than that. And for our second complex, we're in bridge debt right now just because we're stabilizing and we're renovating units and we're doing some major, major renovations. But I'll project probably the next 6 months to 9 months, we're going to refinance. We're going to put good agency debt on it. That's what I didn't do for my portfolio in New York when I started. Now I'm doing that today, but I'm only doing that today because I learned it by watching what we're doing in Tennessee. And let's do another back and forth. I'm bringing in property management in my New York portfolio. Why? Because I finally feel comfortable and love the results that we're seeing in Tennessee. Now, let me dive into, and I haven't even hit any of your guys' questions yet. So me having my computer screen open is really just worthless. Let me talk to you guys about what I'm doing in New York and how it's going to work for you guys in Tennessee. The big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill was just put out by our acting president, and the most important piece to it for us real estate investors is 100% depreciation and accelerated depreciation, cost segregation studies, and the word real estate professional. I just gave it all to you, but let me pull it back and break it down. And then I'm going to give you my New York example, and then I'm going to bring it to all of you guys in Tennessee. Okay. A piece of real estate that is rental real estate, could be a single family house, could be a 2-family, or could be a 50-family. You're going to depreciate it for 27 and a half years. What does that mean? That means even though you're collecting income off of this asset, in the eyes of the IRS, you're able to depreciate the property, which means to say the property is going down in value because the kitchen appliances are getting beat up. The roof, right? The roof has a shelf life. The electrical has a shelf life. The parking lot has a shelf life. So the IRS code allows you to depreciate it for 27 and a half years. So you break them into small little depreciating years, and every year when you file your taxes, you guys are able to say, okay, the property that I have at 123 Banana Street lost or depreciated 15 grand, 10 grand. Understand that? Or are we all on the same page? Perfect. In the big, beautiful bill, 100% depreciation is back. So what does that mean? That means with something called a cost segregation study, you're able to pull out all the depreciation and put it into buckets. 1-year bucket, 5-year bucket, 15-year bucket. Are we all still together? Why it is so important is when you're able to put it into these buckets, you're able to accelerate the depreciation. So here's an example. In 2025, the Carp family, for our New York personal portfolio, we purchased 2 multifamily properties. Let's say on average, they were probably somewhere between 900 and $1 million for both of them, both 4-family properties. We used our value add strategy, which we're using right here in Tennessee. And after renovating the units, pushing the tenants out, and stabilizing them, each property is about generating $3,000 a month in passive income. That's income that I would be having to pay tax on. With the cost segregation study, both properties, we brought our cost segregation company in, and they basically do like an engineering drawing of it. They come in and they look at the house, they take pictures, and they give you this big expensive report. Both properties are going to take a $200,000 paper loss. So what does that mean? This paper loss, you guys are able to use it against your passive income. So let me get the trusty calculator out because I am definitely not a mathematician by any sort. So we were saying these properties are going to generate around $6,000 in positive cash flow. You times that by 12, and that's $72,000. I would potentially having to pay tax on that $72,000. But wait, remember I told you we were able to take paper losses on both the properties for $200,000 each. That's $400,000. So let's say I use 100 of it to wipe away that $72,000. That means the $72,000 is tax-free. Okay? Now it gets better. I still have a $300,000 loss. What can I use that for? Well, here's another very important thing. Real estate professional status. So that extra $300,000 loss can be used to defer any other passive income. All right, so if I had a stock that had passive income, if for my ownership in the brokerage I received a dividend check, I could use that. I could use it, which is fabulous, on our other rental income, right? Because these are 2 properties, we have 18 other ones. So that's what it's great for there. But let me take it to another level. What you're able to do is I'm able to, and maybe you guys can too, I could declare myself as a real estate professional. Now, a real estate professional, and please don't quote me, I'm not your tax guy, I'm just some crazy bald guy who's obsessed with real estate on YouTube and on social media. 750 hours. You have to be able to show that you're in real estate for 750 hours, okay? So it's great if you have a husband and wife, and the wife works and the husband stays home, so he could say that he's in real estate activities for 750 hours. For me, that's all I do, right? The day job is the brokerage, right? Selling houses, and then managing the car portfolio, buying real estate, the syndication. So it's very easy for me. So this is when it gets better. Once you can declare yourself a real estate professional, you could take unlimited losses to defer your ordinary income. So now, if I was a W-2 employee and the Karp family doesn't receive any income W-2, and we can get into that on another podcast, but my brokerage income, right? When I help you guys sell your house, you're nice enough to give me a commission check, which I deserve and I work hard for. I'm able to use that extra $300,000 worth of losses right there. Does that all make sense? Do you see it where, let's just bring it full circle for my family portfolio, and then I'm going to bring it to Tennessee. We added $6,000 a month in passive income, and I was able to have a $400,000 loss, which will get rid of the passive income, plus help me defer any other taxes that are on any other taxes that I would owe on my federal taxes. It doesn't work with your state tax. This only works on the federal tax. Do you see how huge that is? Now, how do we do this in Tennessee? The best part in Tennessee, we're able to do the exact same thing. Our property, and don't quote me on the numbers because I got a lot of numbers rolling around. Our property that we bought in Dixon, Tennessee, which is our second asset, we're very excited and proud over that asset. That asset, we did a cost segregation study on it right away. The key is doing it before you do any major renovations. And I believe we were able to pull out $800,000 paper loss. And with our syndication, and each project is different, we're able to give those losses right to you, our limited partners. Now, you're saying to yourself, Brian, I don't have any passive income yet, so what could I do with those losses? It's fine if you don't have any passive income yet, because when we sell this property one day, you're going to have all of this income come in, and you're able to use that to defer it. Last piece, and Brackley, Tennessee, our first asset. One of our limited partners, just an example, invested $100,000 into our first project. Year one, we owned the asset when we gave him the K1. K1 is something that comes out at the end of the year showing what you made and what you lost. He invested $100,000. We gave him a $60,000 paper loss that he was able to go to his accountant. If he had rental income, if he had portfolio income, if he had types of passive income, he would have been able to use that 60 to defer it. A lot of my investors that invest in the syndication are real estate professionals, so they're able to take that and wipe off their day job as a dentist, their day job as an accountant. All right, so isn't that the most insane, incredible piece of it? Let me look and see if I could pull some of the other questions that you guys sent over to us, because I did a 30-minute rant on all of this. All right, so one of the questions was single family versus condo versus multifamily. Today in New York, I'm only buying multifamily. Today in Tennessee, we are trying to shop 20 to 50 units plus. And why is that? I like giving you guys advice with your money to partner with us, exactly what we're doing in New York with every dollar that we've made in our entire lifetime. So I always like to say I'm all in on this. In New York, why we're not buying single families anymore is when you have one single family property and one tenant stops paying, you're 100% not receiving any income. So in New York, I like to buy, and right now my sweet spot is 4 families where I have 4 units producing income. In Tennessee, the best part is there's a lot of big apartment complexes that we've been shopping and buying. So for example, our 51 unit in Tennessee, I'm so happy to tell you guys today, we only have 6 vacant units, which is insane. And we've turned 50% of them. So what does that mean? 50% of the units we've either had the tenant leave and renovate their unit or move them up to market rent. That is huge. That is an accomplishment on its own because depending on when you guys are watching this, October 18th is our 1-year anniversary. But during the period of renovation or restabilization for our first asset, there was a time that we had over a dozen vacancies, but the asset was still cash flowing. Does that make sense? The asset was still cash flowing with 12 to 15 vacancies. And the reason why it was still cash flowing is because it was a piece of multi-family real estate. And how did we come up with this amazing game plan? It's what I did for 20 years here in New York. Now, for our Tennessee portfolio, it is at such a high level and has so many moving parts. That's why I have Anthony to run all the numbers and to be the analyst and to be the I like to call him the professor. So today, we're only buying multifamily properties that have multiple income streams. Now, another question was, Brian, what about triple net leases, right? And triple net lease, just to give you a breakdown, it's a property that the tenant pays for the taxes, the tenant pays for the lawn maintenance, the tenant pays for every little thing to do with the property. I just sold a triple net lease property and I was asked to purchase it before I brought it to the market to sell it, and I said no. The reason I said no was because that property is generating $35,000 a month from the tenant. What if that tenant leaves? What if that tenant goes bankrupt? You are 100% vacant. So to me, I feel so much more comfortable when in Dyersburg, we have 51 tenants. I just told you I was 15 vacancies. You guys are the math people. That was like 10% vacant, 85% occupied, 80% occupied. We're still cash flowing. Where when you look at a triple net lease, yeah, it's great. You got a 10-year lease and the tenant's paying everything. But what if the tenant goes bankrupt? And guys, crazy big time companies have gone bankrupt, right? I think Macy's and Bloomingdale is still around, but remember JCPenney's, right? Sears. So to me, that's how we invest in New York. We want each asset to have multiple streams in it. And same thing with our Tennessee portfolio. We want to have these assets with multiple different streams in it. There was a question about New York versus Tennessee. It's funny that anyone would still invest in New York. I can't help myself, right? I'm an addict. I had to keep investing in New York when I see the right deals. And also remember, I'm doing a lot of looking at a property that I purchased 10 years ago for $150 that's worth $600. I have to move the capital. So why Tennessee is so much better? Landlord-tenant laws. Landlord-tenant laws. New York, our last eviction, which I hope we never have to walk through another eviction, took us about 9 to 10 months from start to finish. We didn't do anything wrong. We are, in my opinion, the greatest landlords ever, right? We usually jump on issues within 24 hours, and the person fell on hard times and looked at us as this massive landlord on the, that they wanted to screw over. And unfortunately, going through the courts and dealing in a blue state, it took us almost 9 to 10 months. Now, let me bring out my trusty calculator. It was only a 2-bedroom unit, and I want to say they were paying $2,400. $2,400 times 9 is $21,600, plus our attorney was $2,000. You also have to pay the sheriff to move all their stuff out of the house, which was like another $1,500. And then there was like a process server in there. So that cost us around $25,000. Let's look at Tennessee. First off, I don't know if that's English. You have a lot less eviction and a lot less tenant-landlord disputes in Tennessee. And the reason why is in Dyersburg, we typically have people out in about 30 to 40 days. That's from start to finish. And in Dixon, which is a little bit less rural, closer to Nashville, typically about 60 days. So being that the judges and the entire court move so much quicker, tenants are a lot less likely to stop paying. And you guys can see this. On one unit, we lost $25,000. That's why, in my opinion, you're crazy to invest in New York. I'm going to tell you guys a nightmare story, and thank God it's not my story. One of my buddies who is a seasoned landlord, multiple generation of buy and hold real estate investors, they're in the process of almost a year eviction with one of their tenants. And what happened was this person is in the armed forces. And of course, we love all of the armed forces people, but he's using that to manipulate the system. He's also using a bankruptcy to stall the eviction. And he's been in this property for over a year. It can happen. I've heard nightmare stories where people are in properties for over 2 years. I have a client who owns a building in Brooklyn in the boroughs, and he's got someone in there for almost 2 years. And the worst part is that he doesn't have a great lease, and he was paying all of the utilities. So he has to continue to pay the oil. It's unbelievable. All right, my crew's giving me wrap it up, Rye, wrap it up, and they're about to pull the cane out for me. So let me just leave you guys with this. I'll close the computer. I didn't really get to any of your guys' questions. I could rant and talk about real estate all day, every day. This is the greatest tool in the entire world to build wealth in real estate. And I mean that from somebody who, as soon as I graduated college, I borrowed money from my parents to take Jessica out on our first date. I've been financially free since 38. Today I'm 42. I'm still playing and doing this today because I love it. You have so many different factors that real estate hit on. Number one, it's the cash flow, right? That's what we got into it for. We got into it because I wanted massive cash coming in every single month. I wanted it spitting at me, rain or shine. And with that cash, you could buy stupid things, right? I'll tell you guys a story. Jessica turned 40, we'll say just a day ago. I invited her family, my brother, some other friends of ours. I paid for them to fly to Florida and go out and party for 2 days. Right? And it probably cost me $20,000. But that wasn't done with earned income. That was done with passive income. And the best part is, at the end of the month, that passive income comes in right again. And if you want to buy stupid things, right? I have a stupid truck. It's a $140,000 Cadillac Escalade. But I didn't buy that with earned income. I bought that with passive income that my portfolio produces every single month. So you could be so generous. You can bless so many people. You could really be carefree financially because of the passive income. But what I'll tell you with the passive income, it takes multiple decades to do it. That's why most people don't do it. Remember, look at us. We're 20 years of buying, holding, and investing in multifamily real estate to just be at the level we are today. I know some families that are 3 generations, right? Father, son, grandfather, grandchild. All right, so we spoke about the passive income. Number 2 is the tax benefits, right? I did a whole piece to you guys about how we're aiming to pay no tax on all of our income from all of our different businesses and ventures with buying real estate and using a cost segregation study and being a real estate professional. That's number 2. And let me land the plane. Appreciation. You guys all forget about appreciation. And appreciation is the greatest wealth building tool. Because you look at the portfolio that we personally built in New York, I told you, we were buying properties for 180, 250, $350 for 4 families. And I remember walking out of the closing table, felt like I overpaid for them. Today, they're worth $1 million. Ask your parents what they paid for their house. Right? And listen, real estate has always been the average person's greatest wealth tool. But imagine if you own 4 houses, 5 houses, 10 houses, 20 houses. I'm telling you, you need to find a way to get into real estate. And the vehicle that Anthony and myself built today is the greatest thing for you guys. Because $100,000 doesn't do anything for you in New York. But investing $100,000 with us does tremendous things because we're able to give you losses, we're able to give you cash flow, we're able to give you depreciation. So reach out to us, set up a meeting. It's Future Gen REI. You could check us out. We have a beautiful website. We have a podcast of tons and tons of different content. I'm telling you guys, this is not self-serving. I'm trying to serve you guys. I'm trying to help you build generational wealth with the greatest asset tool, which is real estate. So move forward and stop sitting on the sideline and get into the game so I could hand you off the ball and you could run for a touchdown. It's a wrap.
Great job, Ron.
Thank you.
Nice ending.
And we're right on, I got 5 minutes.